people all over the world, they log on to OnlyFans. They think they're speaking to a model, or I guess the proper term is a creator. But they're actually speaking to a Filipino.
Michael Beltran is a journalist based in the Philippines, and he's been talking to the people behind the scenes of OnlyFans, but maybe not in the way you think.
I spoke to a single mom. This is the main source of income. I spoke to a college dropout who says this is what feeds their entire family. And to be fair, compared to a call center job, it pays a lot better.
OnlyFans is what happens when someone figures out how to disrupt the traditional porn industry. It's a platform with an app where a creator can share pornographic pictures or videos with their subscribers right from their phone. And as a subscriber, there's an option to chat directly with the creator. What subscribers don't realize is that a lot of times they're not talking to a model. They're actually talking to what's called a chatter. For example, someone like Tony.
Tony is a friend of a friend. He's around my age. He's a dude. He used to have a regular job. And
Tony became an OnlyFans chatter as a way to make more money. The pay was a lot better than what he could get at a call center job. Being an OnlyFans chatter can be a really tough job for reasons we're going to get into later. But now there's even more pressure.
His company straight up told him that all your chats are being fed into an AI. The company didn't say that to eventually replace you, but basically we're using your chats to feed an AI and train it for the future.
In this episode, we're getting into the hidden labor behind OnlyFans, the outsourced workers behind the scenes that prop up the digital sex work economy. This is Kill Switch. I'm Dexter Thomas. How did you come to start reporting on OnlyFans?
One of my friends had a friend who was working on something like this. And I didn't know that. I was like, come again? Like I never heard of anything like that. And so I started looking online, and true enough, on Reddit, there's a lot of communities. There are a lot of Facebook groups and subreddits just dedicated to OnlyFans chatting. Hundreds and thousands of accounts talking about this every day. Some chatters they call themselves professional catfishers.
Imagine a job at a call center, but instead of helping people troubleshoot their new toaster oven, you're taking requests for nudes via DM.
Each chatter is employed by an OnlyFans chatting company. So a chatter, just like any other job, they have an 8-hour shift, they clock in. And so throughout their 8-hour shift, they're handling maybe on average, I'd say 5 to 8 different models at a time. Each model has a different personality, a different brand. Maybe one is the girl next door, another is like a model, another is like a very, sort of conservative kind of girl. People like a lot of different things on OnlyFans.
Right. People do like a lot of different things. Yeah. That's an understatement.
So they have to switch between these different personalities throughout their shifts. And each model for that shift, has a quota. So the main goal of each chatter is to sell content.
Let me get this straight. So basically, an OnlyFans model or creator, I guess they get big enough, they have enough fans to where they can't handle all the messages at once. And then do they reach out to a company that then hires people as essentially a freelancer to handle the messages for them? Is that how this works?
It could be that way, but what I've found is also it could be that the companies are reaching out to models and saying like, hey, you give us a portion of your content sales and we can give you like maybe 10 chatters and they can handle this many people for this amount of time.
On top of a monthly subscription, the fastest way a creator can make money is custom content. This is the pictures or videos that are custom made for just one person. A model obviously can charge a premium for that. And so chatters are encouraged to sell as much custom content as they can for each of the 5 to 8 models they might be working with at a time. This is a lot to juggle. If you're talking about in a single shift, you're chatting for 8 different models. What, do you just have 8 different windows open on your computer screen and you're just going through each one and then trying to keep track every time? How do you even do that?
Yeah, pretty much. They toggle between all of these different windows on their interface.
And sometimes chatters don't work on their own. Sometimes they'll group up and work together to try to get repeat customers or VIP customers. They refer to these as whales, to try to get them to spend as much money as possible.
Sometimes there are teams too, especially when they can identify which fans or subscribers are the big spenders, and when they log on they can group into teams and chat with them simultaneously. And while these teams are chatting with these big spenders, their coach, no, their managers are coaching them through Discord. It's kind of like an esports team, but
Yo,
but flirting.
why draw that connection for me? Why do you compare that to an esports team?
Esports, they have the teams, and you can see that they're being coached by some person in the background saying, "Oh, go left or go right or whatever." And that's the same for OnlyFans. So they were speaking to a big spender, a team of maybe two, maybe three people speaking to one person. So the chat is more seamless, no? And one person may be like, "Okay, ready this picture of the boobs, send it in like in a few minutes, okay." And then somebody else think of something witty to say, and then we'll send that soon.
I'm actually starting to realize how complicated this could get, because keeping up the illusion just sounds really difficult. I mean, if I'm on the other end, if I'm the customer and I think I'm sexting with somebody and I say, "Hey, I want you to take off your shirt and send me a selfie." If it's a normal person, that's fairly easily done, right? But if the actual model, if I'm not actually talking to them, like, how does that even work?
Oh yeah.
Am I a chatter in the Philippines, and then I ping the model and say, "Hey, yo, this customer on the other line, they need a picture. Could you wake up real quick? And I know it's 2 a.m. for you, but emergency, SOS, like, take off your shirt and send me a picture right quick." How does this work? Is there a library of stuff that's already banked? Like, how does this work?
Actually, I saw a demo of this happen, and yes, there is a library of pictures and content and videos that a chatter can go to when speaking to a fan. One chatter was speaking to this person, and this person was like, innocently enough, just like, "Hey, what are you up to?" And then the chatter says, "Oh, I have like a bunch of things that I can go to. I have a picture of this model eating pizza. I have a picture of this model getting out of the shower. I have a picture of this model preparing dinner, watching TV, whatever." So you just choose from that. So she chooses the picture with the pizza. And so, "No, I just ordered some pizza. I'm chilling at home." So there's a picture of the pizza and it looks legit.
As a platform, OnlyFans has some pretty incredible numbers. Last year, they announced that there are 305 million fans using the platform, and that their payments set a record revenue of $6.6 billion. Meanwhile, for the chatters,
most chatters getting into it right now, I'd say they get $1 to $2 per hour.
$1 to $2 an hour. Now, some chatters can get a commission on top of that, for example, 1%, but not everyone gets even that. Plus, a shift can be up to 12 hours long. This is not an easy job. What are the customers, the clients, whatever you want to call them, what are they asking for?
I can pull up the manual if you want.
Yes. You have the manual? There's a manual?
Yeah, there's a manual. One common DM is like, "I'm so horny for you, here's my dick." And then the chatter would say, "Oh my God, I can't see the photo. Can you subscribe to my VIP so I can see?" One of extreme DM would be like, "I want to fuck you." Then instruction says, "Attach a pic of lingerie focused pic, $39. One of the other DM says, are you really the model, or is this like a chatter?" And the response is usually like, "Don't you believe me, baby?" or something like that.
This can be grueling work. I mean, imagine juggling multiple personalities for 12 hours, staying focused on what the customers want, and trying to maintain some kind of sanity while people say whatever they want to you.
It can be physically taxing because imagine sexting with dozens of people using 8 different personalities for 8 hours. That's pretty, that can weigh heavy on your brain. And psychologically speaking, I did consult with a psychologist on this. Normalizing these sort of transsexual interactions in a very sexual manner can fuck you up. I mean, basically, I spoke to a woman who says that it's affected her dating life. Because whenever she meets somebody new, she starts texting with them. It doesn't have to be sexual, but The moment it starts to get a little flirtatious, she feels like she's at work. And she has these sort of mannerisms through texts that have, from OnlyFans, that have filtered in through her dating life. And so she can't enjoy a playful conversation with somebody who she's attracted to. And also, for a lot of the women I've spoken to, I wouldn't say that a lot of the OnlyFans chatters are women. Actually, it's a mix. There's a lot of men, women, LGBT, young, old. It's a lot of different people, no? But a lot of the women that I spoke to, it's really sort of driven them to resent a lot of them heterosexual males in the world, because according to them, they're treated like pieces of meat for 8 hours a day, every day, and they have to like it. I think that's also why a lot of the OnlyFans chatter, their mental health suffers a lot. It puts a strain on some marriages, for example. Not everybody can tell their families that it's their job to send explicit pictures and messages on OnlyFans for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Or tell their families that this is what puts food on the table. For a predominantly Catholic country like the Philippines, this can put some strain on a lot of cultural and familial values that people grow up with.
And for Tony, this is Michael's friend of a friend. Things started to get really bad when a customer said something that reminded him of his real life.
What happened with Tony is that his regularized or sort of mechanical sexual transactions day in, day out, 12 hours a day, was really getting to him. He had recently lost his grandma. He was really close with his grandmother. And then one of the people he was speaking with was telling him about their grandmother who was not going to make it. And so they really sort of had a really emotional moment on OnlyFans. And it's quite strange because this person in America is losing his grandmother, and he's opening up, he's being vulnerable to the model, but it's actually Tony who lost his grandmother a few months back. And then Tony wasn't able to answer for a few minutes. And then their boss, monitoring on Discord, sell the quotas, get to the sale, pings him and is like, what's taking so long? Why aren't you answering? After that, he was just telling me that, what the fuck, man? Like, I make you $10,000 last month. I can't take 30 minutes to grieve my loved ones.
Tony's kind of unique because he has a few years of experience. Tony can make, for example, $30 for a 12-hour shift. The companies hiring them are making significantly more. And on top of that, they monitor everything their chatters do.
They assess your response to this fan wasn't good enough. Maybe you should try it this way. They're constantly trying to improve their metrics on how to best flirt and consequently sell more content.
And compare that to the creators themselves, to the performers on OnlyFans who these chatters are pretending to be. Bad Baby is one of the top earners on OnlyFans. You might remember her from a 2016 Dr. Phil appearance that went viral and turned into a meme that you might have heard of.
Catch me outside, how about that?
Catch you outside? What does that mean?
What I just said.
Bad Baby joined OnlyFans in 2021. Within the first 6 hours, she made $1 million. Let me just say that again. Within the first 6 hours, she made $1 million. And over the next 3 years, she went on to make another $56 million. There's absolutely no way she's chatting to every single person who thinks they're chatting to her.
Yeah, I spoke to the chatter who chats for Bad Baby.
Really?
Yeah.
Yo, do people think they're chatting to her? That's the biggest doubt I have here. Really? They think they're chatting to her?
I think on some level, there's already a suspension of disbelief.
Sure.
Like, I know that I might not really be speaking to Bad Baby, but what difference does it really make to them? There was one chatter who told me that this one Filipino chatter, she was chatting away to a fan, and then suddenly she just said, "Excuse me, I have to go use the CR." Maybe it's a Filipino thing, which is what we say for a toilet. And so this fan was kind of confused, like, wait, is this really you? Are you a Filipino? And then so basically she was outed by the fan. And later on, the fan didn't really care. They just carried on as if nothing happened. And to the chatter, it was like, see, it doesn't really matter to them.
Wow. And then they just kept talking. They didn't stop the chat.
No. They were really worried. like I'm gonna
Really?
lose my job or something like that. But the chatter was pretty happy that they just kept on talking, as if nothing happened.
Wow. And just continuing the fantasy, I guess.
What I got from a lot of the chatters I spoke with, I'd say they're 80% of the people who they speak with are just looking for the content. They want to see, naked people, etc. But a lot of them are also just really, really lonely. This whole industry is sort of capitalizing on what a lot of people would call the loneliness epidemic. But at the same time, on the other end, which is I guess the hidden sort of unseen end of this whole industry, is capitalizing on the divide between economies, the global south. Some would say the exploited global south, because of the wages we get and the wages we're supposed to appreciate, even if it's part of this whole chain of exploitation. And so, with internet and with borderless industries, sometimes you don't have to bring the labor to your country anymore. You just need a good internet connection.
Chatters are critical in the economy of OnlyFans, period. One study found that private messages drive almost 70% of all OnlyFans revenue. And if you want to increase those margins, the Philippines is a logical choice. There's infrastructure. And for chatters, this is a job when those can be hard to find.
I think one of the reasons that OnlyFans chatting is such a big deal here is that the Philippines is a former US colony, with a really, really big unemployment rate. There aren't a lot of available jobs. I think in Southeast Asia, we are regularly, if not the first, we're usually competing with Indonesia in terms of unemployment. But in terms of percentages, we have the highest homeless rate. For a lot of the pandemic, we had the highest inflation rate. So economically, OnlyFans chatting, despite this $1, $2 an hour rates, it's still a pretty big prospect. I mean, relatively speaking.
And there's a history here that's also relevant.
Call center was, I guess, the original outsourcing boom here in the Philippines. I think I was a teenager when my older brother got a job in a call center, and suddenly all his friends had to speak like they were from Southern California. But in terms of salaries, OnlyFans chatting is definitely a lot bigger. I did meet one chatter. She transferred from a call center job to OnlyFans chatting job. It does pay, I'd say, like at least twice as more. But I think sometimes a lot of people, they're sort of blindsided by, wow, it's such a big salary and we're just flirting with people. It should be easy, but it's actually a really, really taxing job. It's competitive flirting, basically, because you're competing to keep your quotas up.
Competitive flirting.
And to keep your job. It says in their contracts that they're pretty expendable. That the moment that they drop from their quotas, it's pretty easy to terminate them from their jobs.
And in a landscape where people expect digital labor to be cheap, it's only a matter of time before AI enters the picture. These workers now aren't just doing invisible labor, they're being threatened to be replaced by it. Companies are now using AI to generate messages to the fans.
One human Filipino chatter maybe handles 5 to 8 models, but an AI can handle 50 at a time. And, the AI doesn't have shifts. But a lot of the AI companies, of course, they still say that they're not replacing humans. They're just, making humans more efficient.
Even if they aren't replacing human chatters yet, this has put new stress on them. Earlier this year, the company Tony works for informed his team that their chats were being used to train AI, and that this AI would eventually start to replace some of them. They just told him straight up. They didn't even hide it.
And then on the other end, there are still companies and chatters who are saying that AI could never do my job. It's better to foster these genuine connections with fans, and that's actually more profitable.
Sorry, genuine connections when they're not genuinely speaking to the model they think they're speaking to. That's a wild statement. Okay, genuine connections. All right. And AI's role in OnlyFans isn't just limited to the messages. It's also creating photos and videos.
Custom content is like a big deal on OnlyFans. It makes a lot of money and it drives a lot of the sales, but you can't really mass produce custom content because it's custom. But with these new AI tools, what they can do is they promise to make them indistinguishable from a professional photo shoot. And at the same time, because it's AI, there's a world of possibility on what custom can be. They can generate new pictures of that model doing something completely different in a completely different scenario. But it's definitely sort of opening a new box of available products that can be, mass produced and sold through this
Yeah.
platform.
The CEO of OnlyFans has said that OnlyFans as a platform doesn't allow entirely AI created characters, but the creators can use AI to quote unquote enhance their content as long as they disclose the use of that AI. That seems really open ended to me and also kind of hard to enforce, but let's get back to the chatters. If this work is so hard on the humans who are doing it, would replacing them with AI maybe not be such a bad thing? After all that you've said about this, especially what the chatters go through, right? The people who are essentially propping up this industry, as much as I want them to get paid, I'm starting to think maybe in terms of we're just talking mental health outcomes here, maybe this is one of those industries where, you know what, maybe AI should do this. Maybe, maybe it should be AI talking to the lonely dude in Iowa or whatever who thinks he's talking to Bad Baby. Like whatever vitriol whatever wild stuff he's gonna be saying at somebody, potentially violent things, potentially abusive things. Say that to the robot. I don't want you saying that to a real human being. Like I don't want somebody in the States having to deal with that. I don't want somebody in the Philippines having to deal with that. Give that to the robot.
Yeah, that's true. That would be an option, but you're still taking away jobs for an untold number of people who have no jobs and have no available jobs. So again, when we go back to the baseline on what available
Yeah.
jobs are there for the Philippines, this may be another episode, but the Philippines is sort of in the last 100 years, it's been tailor made for sending people to work abroad for next to nothing, and it's been made for
Yeah.
now for accommodating a lot of the jobs that people don't want to do in other countries.
What does the prospects look like though? Say 2 years from now, do you think this industry is still going to exist in the Philippines, or is it all going to be robots?
It's hard to say. I mean, there's the race for the AI technology to improve and to distribute it to as many companies as possible in as many different kinds of uses as possible. And at the same time, there's a race for accessing and tapping more cheap labor and a cheaper labor after that. And so I think in 2 years or in several years, I'm thinking, yes, this will definitely still exist. I don't think that the technology can exist without humans completely, but there's definitely going to be some displacement along the way. And it's kind of freaky to think what kind of interactions will this breed in the future. Will it be 80% robot generated responses, or will it still be majority human? But I think whatever happens, I think that there will still be either more humans looking for any kind of job available, especially Filipinos, and there will still be more companies from the US or from anywhere else in the world looking to make the most of that.
And that AI race that Michael's talking about for cheaper labor and faster results, it's already been playing out in the Philippines.
A lot of companies are figuring out what else they can offshore, whether it's OnlyFans chatting to building automation tools and data labeling. I spoke to some of the companies that are building the AI tools that are being deployed and will be deployed more and more on the OnlyFans platform. And they said, oh, actually, some Filipinos were doing the data labeling for our tech. So that's so interesting. So it's like Filipino labor doing the chatting and also doing the data labeling that will be used for the future of OnlyFans chatting, which is AI.
And this brings us to the $6.6 billion question. Does the user care if they're sexting with AI?
I think a lot of the AI companies are banking on the fact that it won't matter to a lot of customers whether they're talking to an AI or an actual human or the model. When you think about it, even if you were actually speaking to the model, the model is sort of inhabiting themselves as a brand. They're tailoring themselves to this brand that they have on OnlyFans, that I'm the schoolgirl or I'm the hot neighbor or something, you know? And so that all of that can be distilled into either the work of a chatter or an AI. And so what commitments are really being held? How many ways can this conversation really go?
Yeah. Where it's an abstraction of your actual personality,
Yeah.
and then an abstraction of that abstraction. You're just everything's a caricature of another caricature. So I want to underline one thing real quick. I don't think this is a story so much about sex, especially if you think about sex as something that's separated from real life or from work. And I think the existence of OnlyFans chatters is just one example of how Silicon Valley and all the apps, it's not just devices, it's people. And it's not just the people you see, like in this case, the attractive people who you pay money to see just with less clothes on. It's the people who you don't see that make this entire economy work. And when that economy demands more profits, well, actually, I don't know what happens. We're about to find out what happens next. And this is probably a good place to say that if you want to read Michael's full article on OnlyFans, it's on a site called restofworld.org, which has a lot more really great reporting on stuff just like this. And we'll have a link to that, as always, in the show notes. And one more thing. Here's just one more story from Michael about how the OnlyFans chatter, Tony, prides himself on being really good at his job.
So for Tony, he goes to parties and he introduces himself as a professional catfisher.
He says that at parties, really?
Yeah, as a joke though. But I mean, everybody knows what his job is. And to an extent, he was even priding himself on being really, really good at it. He said that I'm a man and I know what guys want to hear when they chat with a woman.
If you've ever seen the David Cronenberg film M. Butterfly, or you know the play that it's based on, you know exactly why I think what Tony just said there is so fascinating. But this is not a literature podcast. This is Kill Switch, so we're just going to move on. Catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.